Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes. I am your host, Mike Catron, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler? Didn't work again. Did you get the big error symbol again? Is there like a fighter jet outside my house? What is going on with that?
The only time it stops, it'll tell you when it stops recording because a big error comes up and it just says, Google can no longer record this Hangout. And you're like, that is scary.
Weird. I really don't know what's going on here.
Just leave all this in. Just keep talking. We'll be fine.
All right. I'll start again. Do a little pause.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't even mute your mic because I think
that
might be weirding it out for some reason.
As long as you can hear me and I can hear you, it always comes through for the most part. Like I've done this a million times.
Yeah.
So no matter what it says on the screen, as long as you can hear me, I would just keep going because it'll come through on YouTube then.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes. I am your host, Mike Catron, and as always, joining me is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Not much, Mike, man. How are you?
I am doing all right. I'm finally feeling better. I got to see Karl-Anthony Towns take on the Greek Freak himself in Milwaukee last weekend. That was pretty incredible.
I can only imagine those two just staring each other eye to eye.
Yeah, they are the real deal. I mean, they are really, really good. Giannis is unguardable. Karl-Anthony Towns, I think, had like 36 points, 37 points in the game. He was like running off screens like he was a three and like just popping out to the 3-point line and just jacking threes and hitting them in people's faces. I was like, it's frightening to see 2 7-footers with the skills that those two people have.
Oh, I can only imagine. And the nice thing about going to games is I think you get a perspective of like how big and how skilled like even the worst players are.
Oh yeah, I mean, though this doesn't really apply, I was fully expecting Tony Snell to be terrible, and Tony Snell had a team high 19 points in the Bucks win, and has been shooting, I think, over 41% from behind the arc this year, and actually played really good defense on Andrew Wiggins. Like Wiggins was held to I only think 11, 12 points or so, and I'm sure all those numbers are a little bit off, but I did get fairly drunk by the end of the fourth quarter. But Tony Snell guarded Andrew Wiggins incredibly well and was jacking threes, and I was like, wow, I wonder why he was traded from freaking Michael Carter-Williams, who doesn't even play anymore.
Tibbs taught him well. Is that what you're telling me?
Tibbs is good. Tibbs needs a little bit more credit on his offensive prowess. Some of those plays they were running were impressive, and obviously defense is important. The Bulls forgot how to play defense. I'm not even sure if there's a defensive scheme. I'm not even sure if there's any coaching going on. I realized recently that I figured out what's wrong with Fred Hoiberg, other than that he's a hologram. I figured out Fred Hoiberg doesn't know that in the NBA you can call a play after a timeout. It's the only thing that would make sense to see how terrible his inbounds plays are. Tonight against Charlotte, there were multiple inbounds plays where it was just Wade or Butler trying to get open with no like rhyme or reason on how he was going to get open. And then Butler got trapped in the corner. Charlotte got the turnover, got the ball back, immediately scored, cut it down. And the game should have been over. It's embarrassing to watch the Chicago Bulls, and they still won tonight. I mean, it's terrible. They can't even tank right. It's
from an outside point of view, admittedly not a man who watches every Chicago Bulls game, but has seen a good number this year. It always strikes me that Fred Hoiberg like just doesn't command the team like a head coach should. Like it seems like half the guys just don't even like just do whatever they want. They don't even care to listen to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's either he's not doing anything as a coach, or he is trying to do something as a coach, yet Jimmy and Wade don't listen and they don't care. And either way, that means you're a bad coach.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't see that situation working out long term.
No, it's got to end, but of course, it'll probably last another year.
Well, I mean, he has like a lot of years left on his contract, right? Still, like,
who cares?
3 years, 4 years, maybe,
probably.
like,
I'm probably sure they signed him to a ridiculous contract since it's one of their Gar Forman's best friend.
Sure I think it was like a 5 or 6 year deal.
I don't think it may. Hopefully, it's not that long.
For like $5 million a season, I'm almost positive, man.
Well, they did an extensive worldwide search and they found Fred Hoiberg.
Which, like, other than Iowa State, like he can't be that old. Like, has this guy really coached anywhere? Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. He was coaching at Iowa State, who was not that good, who had like a nice offensive scheme, but then got bounced in like the first round of the tournament, and then he left. It was like that.
5-year contract.
This is your coach. This is your coach. The guy got bounced by a mid-major in the first round of the tournament.
5 years, $25 million in June 2015.
I mean, that would be like, it would make more sense to bring in Shaka Smart, who is also like a gimmick coach. Who I'm going to call Hoiberg a gimmick coach because he had his gimmick offense. Shaka Smart has gimmick defense, and it's not going to work in the NBA. It's not working. Obviously, it's not working. And granted, see, I keep going back and forth. There's so much blame to go around. It's like the front office put together a terrible team, so no wonder Fred Hoiberg's struggling. But if you're a good coach, you coach to the team you have, which he's also not doing. So they're both terrible.
Yeah, no, he he is not a good coach. I'm sorry. No. He's just not. I'm not buying the fact that he is.
No, I got a actually quick plug on #basketball.com if you want to hear more about how much I hate Fred Hoiberg. Go to the Bulls section, and I write about Fred Hoiberg's just insane amount of rotations. And it's gotten worse, actually, since I wrote the article. So the article is about how many permutations he's had compared to the rest of the league. And he's easily in the top 5, top 3 when you look at how many rotations he runs out there. He still hasn't figured out a rotation to close games. And even just in the last couple games, which I had written this article before those games, he played 11 players in the first quarter, and then he played or in the first half, and then he played 12 players in the first half in the next game.
Dave Joerger has to be crushing him, though. There's no possible way he's not.
No, I guarantee you. I think the only team, Brooklyn and maybe Denver.
Joerger doesn't play a million in every game, but like he'll for 3 games and then they'll just not play a single minute the next game. And I'm like, how is that possible?
I think you would be surprised. I think Sacramento was up there, but the only team. So I did filter, and here's a little preview of the article for 5-man lineups that have averaged at least 3 minutes per game this season. So if you put a 5-man lineup in for like 3 seconds, that shouldn't count. These 5-man lineups had to have played at least 3 minutes per game. If they played one game, they still had to have played 3 minutes in that one game. The Bulls are tied for 4th with the Nuggets, and they are behind the Pelicans, the Nets, and the Heat. They are ahead of everybody else.
Oh, wow. Dave Joerger, you're letting me down, man.
And that's impressive because they are the only team, I think, let's see, they have 121 different lineups in 63 games. The average amount of lineups for a playoff-bound team is 72 under those stipulations. So go read the article if you really want to. I really went into the NBA stats and spent quite a bit of time running around in there. And then I also have probably a article coming up this week about what a dumpster fire the Chicago Bulls are, and if any other team has the rights to say they're a bigger dumpster fire than the Bulls.
So are you still regretting the Garpax firing of Tibbs? Do you want Tibbs back at this point?
I would love Tibbs back. They should have kept Tibbs and got rid of Garpax.
I always think Tibbs might be one of the best coaches in the NBA.
I mean, he's still a lunatic. He's still playing his players way too many minutes, and I'm worried about Wiggins and Karl-Anthony Towns' long-term health. But he's a great coach.
And like the dude,
Yeah, he cut out. You there now?
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Damn it!
I
What
don't
the
know.
hell's wrong with this thing?
That wasn't too bad. That was
Just cut out like right in the middle.
yeah, like right after you said the first couple words. I'll just cut that out. And let's just go into the fantasy stuff.
All right, we're fine.
Cool. So yeah, let's just go right into the fantasy news. That's enough about how much I hate Fred Hoiberg. I could talk about that for a year or so. We do have a lot of stuff going on right now in the fantasy world. You should be heading into the playoffs. So we are going to focus on some hot playoff pickups later in the show. But first, we got to get to the news. We got to get to the injuries. And I'm going to go with the late breaking news. Larry Sanders is back in the NBA. Are you excited about the return of the Larry Sanders show?
I had to get a new pair of goggles I saw on Twitter.
Oh no!
So I think
this is breaking news.
Hey, the magic was in the goggles, man. Without the goggles, he couldn't play. So I think he might be terrible now.
Yeah, he's going to be completely non-fantasy relevant. So don't worry about him.
He hasn't played for 2 years, right? I mean, we can agree on that. He wasn't that good with the last that he did play, and
Nope.
He's a guy with a history of mental issues, which I'm not disparaging that. I mean, that's a real thing.
Yeah, everyone should take mental health very seriously.
But I mean, just don't expect this guy to come back and be like averaging 3 blocks a game.
No, not at
happening.
all. I'm interested to see what he can actually do, but I'm guessing he might not even play in some games.
I think they want to use him as a matchups guy anyways, right? They want to use him as kind of like someone who can guard up a big man that on the other team that's good.
Yeah, and hopefully Sanders can still do that. But I hope the Cavs lose, so I don't really care about the Cavs at all. In other news, there is a person named Diamond Stone in the league. Are you excited about Diamond Stone, who is a real person and a real name?
Are you not seriously aware of him?
I was not aware of the person named Diamond Stone, who officially has the best name in the NBA.
He's kind of got a huge lower half. I watched him play a little bit in the summer league for them, and he was surprisingly good. A lot better than I thought. I didn't really think he'd be anything, but he played for Maryland. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole in fantasy, but
no, that's
he looked all right.
That's ridiculous. For injury wise, we have Nerlens Noel. It looks like he is out at least for the short term on this Dallas team. He did not play tonight. He was questionable. Actually thought the injury was soft knees, and I was like, yeah, tell me about it. He's been out for the last 3 games. Could be kind of a lingering injury. Being at his playoff time, are you holding on to Nerlens Noel at all?
I'll circle you back to the Vucevic conversation we had last week. Just gets really hard to hold these guys, especially if you're kind of in a playoff matchup where you lose and you go home. Vucevic did come back, so if you held him, I guess it worked out. You got 1 whole game out of him last week. With the vaguity of this injury, I'm probably willing to cut in my playoffs, especially if I think that I need the production to win the matchup.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty suspicious injury. He wasn't really starting anyway for Dallas. He's only started 1 game. He is playing limited minutes with Dallas. Even in those limited minutes, though, he's still getting a steal and getting really good rebounds. I even think in roto leagues you can go away from him unless you're like really short on big men. But I'd say in most standing leagues, you just got to move on, especially in playoff leagues. You gotta win your week, and I don't think he's going to be playing.
Well, and do you have like an actual injury? Because ESPN is just reporting him as out.
I legitimately have. I've seen it's his knee. He's day to day, considered day to day. It's his left knee.
Okay, so
That's all the information I have.
and the left knee is the one he's had trouble with for years. Am I wrong about that?
I'm pretty sure that's true.
So yeah, no, I'm running. I'm turning my back and I'm running away.
Speaking of running away, Derek Favors out again, bone bruise, projected return next week sometime. I think you got to do the same thing here. Derek Favors is actually someone I'm way more easily dropping because he's not fantasy. He's barely fantasy relevant. Like he's just barely on the cusp of being fantasy relevant. Just because he's just had a terrible year.
And we got a lot to get to today, so we don't got to talk about this. But at some point, we got to talk about what the HELL happened to Derek Favors this year.
Yeah, I think we can save that for the end of the year roundup, where I think it would be smart to do a kind of a preview of next season. And that's, to me, the biggest question about Derek Favors right now, because I don't care about him this year, is that should I even care about him next year?
Yeah, I mean, the guy's only 25 years old. I mean, most people would think he's older than that because he's got a few years under his belt, but I just don't know. He fell right off the cliff.
Yeah. I don't know if this was health. He's been injured pretty much every season for the last couple seasons, and we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens over the summer if something
ranked
comes
29th in per game value last year, though.
Yeah, he was amazing.
And this year, 165th. I mean, that's a cliff dive there.
That's a stiff drop off. Yeah, we'll have to go deep into the Derek Favors situation. Maybe we'll try to bring someone in from Utah to talk about it, because I do not know enough about it. I need someone who's closer to the situation. Another terrible. It's not really an injury, but it's a health issue. LaMarcus Aldridge has a little minor heart problem. Minor heart or arrhythmia. I'm probably saying that wrong. And that's pretty serious. That pretty much means he might not play indefinitely.
Yeah, no, I mean, to my understanding, like what that is your heart beats, the chambers beat at different speeds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that sounds like something, and Coach Popovich even said this in his news conference when he was announcing that he was out. Like, this is a serious kind of situation that can really mess people up if it's not attended to. So I don't really see him playing for the rest of the regular season. He might come back in the playoffs if the Spurs are making it far, but I don't really see him.
Yeah, it's going to be straight up depends on what his doctor says, right? Like Popovich is not the type of person who's like, we got to win at all costs. Popovich is like, human beings matter. So LaMarcus Aldridge, I do not want to put you in danger.
Yeah, no, I mean, just he actually had this. I saw he got diagnosed with some sort of heart condition as a rookie, which I don't even remember. That was quite a few years ago now, obviously.
I do not remember that either.
Yeah, and they basically said that he was fine, and as long as nothing cropped up, and now something's cropped up. So, yeah, I wouldn't be counting on him for anything the rest of the way.
If Paul Gasol's available on your waivers, are you picking him up then?
I mean, I guess. I mean, if there's someone better, maybe I'm not, but
there might be someone better. I think we're going to talk about some of those players here in a little bit, some of those unowned players.
Well, and he's been getting what most people think of Popovich, right? Like he still really hasn't been playing that big of minutes, or he's just in the system now. He doesn't get to do his own little stuff. He's got to play Popovich's way, and that's limited his production quite a bit.
His minutes are still limited. Dwayne Dedmon is getting at least got one of the starts. Actually, he's got both of the starts. Dwayne Dedmon, probably relevant in 14-team leagues, maybe even 12-team leagues. He's getting about 22 minutes. I'm not super excited about Dwayne Dedmon at all, but it's worth noting that he is getting a lot more minutes.
Serious question. Has anyone ever been super excited about Dwayne Dedmon?
I don't really think even his family's been too excited about it. Like, oh, Dwayne's coming to the party. Great.
Yeah,
The life of the party.
he in his career has gotten some decent per 36 block numbers, but even this year when he's gotten some more minutes, the blocks really haven't been there. He's averaging 1 block a game in in 17 minutes. So I mean, I guess that's something, but I mean,
Yeah, maybe a super deep 12-team league, 14-team league, you are streaming him.
Right.
Even because you get some rebounds out of him in a block if you need it. All right, that's decent big man stats, but there might be better players on your waiver.
Not sexy at all.
No, definitely not. Let's see who else is your favorite, one of your favorite players, one of our favorite players, really. Beautiful Bob Covington out. He out questionably. It's a knee. It doesn't seem like it's a serious injury, but he is considered day to day. I am not dropping Robert Covington unless I am about to lose my playoff week. Would you agree?
Oh, you ready for my newest drop?
Oh yeah, do it.
All right, ready? This is a tank alert. Because I saw him on the bench yesterday, looking totally fine.
Walking around, looking good.
Yep. I mean, I think he plays. I mean, they could potentially do the Joel Embiid and just be like, "You're out," but I think he misses a couple games and they play him. I think they were playing the Lakers and they were trying not to win, which they ended up winning. But they knew if he played, they would win, so they sat him out.
So you think this is some shady nonsense coming from Philly, who is the king of tanking? That Covington will probably play sporadically, not consistently. This is pretty early. We are a month until the end of the season, a whole month, and they're already starting this nonsense. Are you worried about this in your playoffs, or do you think this is a one-off?
I think anytime they play anyone they think they can beat, they probably sit them out.
It's pretty good. I think there's a pretty astute observation. I think there's a lot of shady tanking going on right now. We kind of talked about this earlier before the show. We got to put another tank alert out. Hit me with the drop.
Tank alert.
Lakers and the Sacramento Kings, you are on tank alert. There's some shady nonsense going on in Lakerland and all across California. D'Angelo Russell moved to the bench tonight. Still said that he's going to play 30 minutes. We will see if that is true. But D'Angelo Russell moving to the bench for some reason. Nobody's sure why. But
they have a need to start this man on the 10-day contract. I will not try to butcher his last name. It's like Enawabe.
Yes.
Why they keep starting him, I don't know. He got 16 minutes last night against Philly. I'm guessing the game isn't over yet, but I'm guessing he gets around 15 to 20 minutes tonight. Yet we keep starting him. Like, okay, but he's a 24-year-old guy, undrafted. I just don't really see the need to play him. I mean, I don't really think he's anything.
This tank makes sense to me. It makes actually perfect sense to me because the Lakers have to keep their pick. They lose this pick if it's not top 3 protected, or is it top 5 this year?
It's top 3, and there's already one team that's guaranteed to finish below them. So the best they can have is the second worst record.
Yeah, and if someone jumps them,
has like 9
they end
minutes.
up in that third spot. If they're in the third spot, somebody jumps them, which can happen. The Bulls had a 1.6 chance of getting Derrick Rose, and suspiciously they got the hometown kid, Derrick Rose. The Lakers, if they're even in the third spot, there's a decent chance that they get bumped to 4 and they completely lose their pick, and that would be terrible. Luke Walton is being paid right now to tank, and that's exactly what's going on here, and I do think minutes will suffer on this team. Luckily, you're not getting a ton of fancy value out of this team, but the guys who you are getting fancy value out of, you could really struggle to see consistency there.
Oh, I'm totally with you there. I think they're going to give some of these younger guys a shot to play big minutes, especially ones who are not good on defense yet. I'm talking about guys like Zubac and Julius Randle has a tendency to let his defense be terrible. Jordan Clarkson the same way. I think those are the guys who are going to see the most minutes, just because I think they know they'll foul up at some point.
Yep, and I hope this doesn't completely affect Russell's. I don't think it will affect his development because he's got a long way to go and there's plenty of time for him to develop. But for the rest of the season, I do think it hurts his value. I think it decreases his value.
As a keen observer of the Lakers, I watch a lot of Lakers games. He seems to be getting better. He's making some better offensive plays. He's not trying to risk everything with crazy passes and whatnot. He's also looking a little better on defense. So I think he's kind of rounding into form, but obviously they're not giving him the minutes to be super fantasy relevant.
Nope. Another team that is messing around with their lineup, which you are very familiar with, is the Sacramento Kings. What's going on there?
All right, Mike. Game time. 10 games since the All-Star break, including tonight's game for the Kings. Guess how many times they've started the same starting five?
Okay, I feel like I can get this one. I'm gonna say they've started the same starting lineup one time. So they've done one lineup twice.
You got it, my man.
Whoa!
In 10 games,
Whoa!
they've started one starting lineup twice, and every other time it's been different.
That is some shady tanking. You had an announcement that Tyreke Evans was actually sitting out against the Spurs, and then he ended up playing 28 minutes and having 26 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, and 2 steals. Tyreke Evans not playing tonight.
And okay, we talked about this a little bit beforehand. Their last game was on Saturday. Okay, so they had yesterday off. We're playing again tonight, and they sat out 3 guys with planned rest, and Tyreke Evans with a sore left ankle. This wasn't the second of a back-to-back.
And he dropped out.
Right there?
Yep. I got this. The last thing I heard was this is not the second of a back-to-back.
Oh, okay. You want to just start from there?
Yeah, go ahead.
This wasn't the second of a back-to-back. This was oh my Lord, the Magic are not good, and we might win this game, so we're just going to sit out anyone who can play any semblance of minutes. And we're literally going to just let Buddy Hield chuck shots.
Which, at least they're doing that. I mean, at least they made a play for someone who can play basketball. Buddy Hield is not bad at basketball. He's not great at basketball, but they're throwing minutes at him. Are you comfortable with riding anyone on the Sacramento Kings through the playoffs? Because I do not think I am.
I'm not comfortable riding anyone on the Sacramento Kings for a game. I mean, they're just so hard to predict. I think they finally realized that they have no reason not to play Hield. They started in the last 2 games. He's played 36 and 30 minutes. We'll see what it shakes out tonight, but he's shaping up for another 30. And he's been kind of good in those games. I mean, 17.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 3.5 3-pointers a game. He doesn't give you any assists or any steals or blocks, which you don't like for fantasy, but he's been all right.
Yeah, and nobody on this roster is, to me, good enough in a standard league to take the risk of him just randomly sitting out or randomly playing 12 minutes for no reason. I don't want to take that. I don't want to take that risk, so I'm not going to. I'm going to stay away from the Sacramento Kings.
I can't blame you there.
So let's go right into hopefully what would help people out in the playoffs. There's been a lot, and like we've said, in the last half of the season, last month of the season, really, strange people become very relevant. And a couple of these guys are guys who used to be relevant, especially relevant last year, and have reasserted themselves for the last part of the season here. And so these are a bunch of guys who are getting hot right now. And I want to know, we're going to figure out 2 things. One, are they worth picking up in a standard league? Are they high, or is this fake or real? And number two, we're gonna go against each other. If you have all these guys on your waiver, which you probably do, because the guy with the biggest owned percentage right now in an ESPN league, one of these guys has a 51% owned. So in half the leagues out there, he's not even owned. So probably all these guys are available. And we're going to pit these guys against each other and see who actually is. We're going to give a final ranking.
Man, I wish I had the biggest owned.
You wish you had this guy? Is he?
I said I wish I had the biggest owned. That was a joke, Mike.
I don't.
Not a very funny one.
I'm a little slow.
All right, let's get into it. Let's do it.
I'm going to start with the biggest owned, Marvin Williams. Marvin Williams was actually incredibly relevant. Kind of a weird breakout guy last year, who was an older guy who suddenly had fantasy relevance, learned how to shoot a three-pointer. He's back to his old ways, and has been actually pretty stellar, getting over 36 minutes a game for the last month. I'm gonna go. He's only owned in 51% of the leagues. I'm gonna go out there and say he should be owned in 100% of leagues.
Oh, look at Mike throwing it on the line. Oh. This is the Marcus Morris effect. I mean, anyone who plays like 36 minutes a game, I think they fall ass backwards into a fantasy line that's worth it in a standard league. Are you with me there? I mean,
I don't disagree. Like you with that much usage, with that much playing time on the court, you're bound to be doing enough. If you're, not Scalabassier or whatever, you're bound to be doing enough. That's right, throwing shade on Scal. You're bound to be doing enough to be relevant. And Marvin Williams is being more than relevant right now, way more than relevant. Now, a little bit of that is from his he's shooting over 50% in the last couple weeks. But even when he shoots closer to his averages around, this season he's averaging 43%. Even when he's shooting that much, he's still fantasy standard league relevant in a 9-cat league.
I think this guy should definitely be owned. If he's not owned in your league, I'd definitely pick him up. He's just not gonna do anything that's too sexy, which that eliminates some people right away. Like none of his numbers are gonna jump off the page at you, but they're all pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not like, oh man, this guy is the second coming of Robert Covington. He's getting good rebound numbers right now. So if you need some rebounds, there you go. He's averaging over a block a game. That's pretty great. In the last month, he's averaging around a block. That's pretty solid. He does enough across the board. Doesn't really hurt you in too many categories, but does enough across the board to be relevant. And a lot of those are the types of guys who are overlooked. The non-sexy names who have non-sexy stats, but give you a little bit of everything, and they just chip away at other teams. And I think, I'm feeling safe riding him through the playoffs.
I'm with you there. I think that
cut out.
It's a game last year. I think if you up that to like 32, 33 minutes, I think that's probably what he produces the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Let's go on to the next guy. This guy is also, someone who I'm surprised how low this guy is owned. I'm surprised how many leagues do not have this guy on. Gary Harris. How is Gary Harris only owned in 47.8% of leagues?
Oh, I'm sure we've talked about this before. This is a personal favorite of mine. I love me some Gary Harris.
He's good. Now, I'm more of a Will Barton. I think you're more of a Gary Harris.
Oh, you're just wrong about that, Mike. Come on.
Will Barton is nasty. Will Barton is out of control. But I'd have to say Gary Harris. I would rather own Gary Harris right now than Will Barton. As a Will Barton lover, I'm giving it to Gary.
In your favorite leagues, in Roto leagues, I think Gary Harris is kind of developing into a Roto league monster with those real good percentages. This year he's shooting almost 50%, and he shot 82% from the free throw line last year.
Yeah, he doesn't turn the ball over. Somehow, as a guard, he does shoot an incredible percentage. His percentage has been going up over the last month. He's been hitting a ton of threes. He's giving you over a steal and a half a game in the last month. Those are all really good numbers. Over a steal and a half. Now the two assists, 2 rebounds, not great, but 2 threes, that makes up for it. The percentages make up for it. If you're in a roto league, he should be owned. Period. If you're in a standard league, he should be owned.
Oh
Both
yeah,
these
no.
guys should be owned. Both Marvin and Gary. Now you cut out. You cut out. Let's just start with.
Oh man, this is gonna be brutal to edit.
I know. I'm not looking forward to it now because it's starting to get worse. Now you cut out again.
No.
You cut out again. Yeah, you just cut in. I can hear you now. Let's just try to push through because we only have a few things. You good? No, lost you again. I can hear you now. You good?
Hello. Check.
I can hear you.
Check.
I can hear you.
Check.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Video call was ended, so hopefully that fixed it. Just came on my screen. Video call was ended.
Weird. Were you in a different video call?
I apparently had to just log back into the video call, and now it seems like it's working fine.
Yeah, it even sounds a little bit better. So hopefully
that fixed it.
Yeah. All right. I'll pick back up with Gary Harris, and then I think we'll just try to do lightning round to get through this in case this messes up. And I'll just do names, how percentage they own, and then we'll just do like if they're for real or not. And then I'll start weighting them against each other.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So yeah, Gary Harris should be owned in all leagues. Marvin Williams should be owned in all leagues. There's quite a few guys out there who are really contributing over the last couple of weeks. Would you rather have Marvin Harris, or Marvin Harris? I'd rather have Marvin Harris. That'd be
Marvin Harrison, that dude used to get passes from Peyton Manning.
Also, yeah, have you seen his jump shot? Have you seen his fadeaway?
I have heard it's good.
It's pretty sick. They're both on your waiver. Marvin Williams, Gary Harris. Who you picking up?
Gary Harris, but if you need rebounds and blocks, it's obviously Marvin Williams. I mean, that's kind of a team specific thing, but I'm going for Gary Harris in a vacuum.
Yeah, it's always kind of a team specific thing, but in a vacuum, I'm with you on Gary Harris. Let's run through the rest of these guys. Let's see if they're. I'll ask you if they're for real, and then let's rank them with the rest of them. We have Alan Williams on the Suns, owned by 49.8% of teams. Alan Williams has been playing really well. His minutes have been weird. Is this guy good for the rest of the season?
Yes, in the sense that we talked about this last time. I think they are starting him over Alex Lynn and Tyson Chandler, and if he's getting minutes, I think this guy is kind of a double-double guy.
I would agree. I like him. I think he needs to kind of do a little bit more when it comes to blocks, but he's close to a block and a steal guy. So he's a little over a block and he's almost a steal. and those guys are really hard to come by. His turnovers are basically non-existent, so they help you. That helps you out in a roto league. Another guy who kind of gets kind of strange statistics is Andre Iguodala. With KD out, Andre Iguodala, who's only owned in 24% of leagues, has kind of been playing pretty well. Do you like Andre Iguodala for the rest of the season since KD's out?
Yes, in the sense that I think Iguodala can probably play some more minutes. He can't hold up to the big grind anymore. He's getting older, and they just don't want to play in big minutes for extended periods of time. But because KD's out, I think he's going to get you like 4 assists. He's probably going to get you over a steal. He's probably going to get you like half a block, and the percentages should be relatively good. So, yeah, I wouldn't hate owning Andre Iguodala at this point.
Yeah, I think to me the key right there is his consistent steals, and steals are pretty hard to come by, especially off the waiver, to get consistent steals, and that's exactly what Iguodala does for you, along with the other bunch of random stats. He's kind of frisky when it comes to the full box score, and that's what I do like about him. Andre Iguodala or Marvin Williams rest of the season?
You're asking the tough questions. I'm gonna have to go with Marv. I just think Marv is getting a lot more minutes, and minutes are key.
Marvin Williams or Allen, the main man Williams, the Williams versus Williams.
If I need some safety, I'm going for Marv. If I'm shooting for the moon, I think I'm going for Allen Williams, because I think you could see Allen Williams just go nuts and do something you don't expect. Whereas Marvin Williams, I think you kind of know what he is at this point.
Yeah, you've maxed out on Marvin Williams. If I'm in a roto league, I'm going with Marvin Williams. But if I'm in a standard league, playoff wise, Allen Williams is a little bit of a specialty. He gets those good rebounds. And if suddenly he would to play 34 minutes a game, that could be really nice. If they just say, screw it, let's go with Allen Williams for stupid long minutes, then let's do it. And then he's going to bump up in value real quick.
I am with you there.
Another guy on the Suns who is he's only owned. Let me double check this. He's only owned in 12% of leagues. Marquise Chris. He's been playing well just recently, in limited minutes. He's had a good season overall, but recently in the last 2 weeks he's bumped into per game as a top 65 player. He's kind of been hovering around the top 100 during his extended playing time lately. He does a little bit of everything. Do you think the Suns are going to go with him for the rest of the season? See what they have in Marquise Chris?
In a relative 25 minutes, yes.
You don't think he's going to get any more minutes than that? You think that's kind of where his max is?
I think he's gotten 1 game so far this season, where 2 games, three games in the last 2 months that he's played over 30 minutes. So to give him 30 minutes too often.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. He does kind of intrigue me as just a value, the type of value he could bring with the fact that he shoots threes. But he doesn't get enough minutes. Who are you taking the rest of the season, Marquise Chris or Andre Iguodala?
If I need blocks, Chris. Otherwise, I think I'm taking Iguodala.
I think I'm taking Iguodala either way. I just like Iguodala a little bit more across the board.
Last 2 weeks, though, in 8 games, 1.6 blocks for Marquise Chris. So if I need the blocks, I got to go for Chris.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Iguodala just doesn't have it when it comes to blocks anymore.
Right.
I guess, he's getting old. Get off his back.
I am still a huge fan. That guy was my favorite player in the league for a hot minute there. So I'm still a big Andre Iguodala fan.
I don't know how you could hate on Andre Iguodala, especially since he won an MVP on defense. So,
and he always seems like he's just a super good guy.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be a cool guy to hang out with. I like Iggy. I'm glad he got his ring. Another guy here who's owned in only 18% of leagues also has been having a pretty good month, but is playing a ton of minutes. This is Courtney Lee for the Knicks. Courtney Lee is averaging almost 36 minutes a game in the last month, but is scoring a getting some decent steals, getting some 3-pointers. He's not bad. He's not playing that bad. How much do you like Courtney Lee here? Do you like him more than Gary Harris?
I will not gonna lie. In one of my most important leagues, I have been streaming Courtney Lee for about the last week and a half or 2 weeks. He is an unsexy name. I mean, everyone thinks, ew, Courtney Lee wants to own him, but he's been sneaky kind of good here in the last month or so. So, he's a stream guy for me in a standard league. But the steals have been good, and so have the 3-pointers. So if you really need those two categories with relatively good percentages, go for him.
Yeah, in a 12-team league, I think he's ownable 100%. But in a 10-team league, standard or roto, I don't know if I would own him in a roto league. I think there's probably other people to own. Maybe someone to keep on your bench if you really are desperate for some of the stats he gets. He should be streamed in all standard leagues. If we put him up against someone who just moved to the Washington Wizards, who's also been having a pretty decent month, but is actually owned in a lot more leagues, is owned in 37% of leagues. Bogdanovic, he's been having a pretty good couple games here in the last month, but he's still averaging, unlike Courtney Lee, who's averaging 35 points or 35 minutes in the last month. Bogdan's only been averaging 25. So when it comes to Bogdan, he does a lot of the same stuff that Courtney Lee does. He hits threes, but he doesn't get really the anywhere near the assists or steals that Courtney Lee does. Do you think Bogdan's got any potential for the rest of the season, or do you think he's just kind of a guy who fits in Washington but is not, not that great?
Is it Bogdan, really?
No, probably not.
I thought it was Bojan Bogdanovic.
I like just calling him Bogdanovic because it sounds stupid. I don't really care what his real name is.
Do I like him? No, because he doesn't do anything in steals and blocks, and that annoys me.
He has scored in bunches. He's had 3 games over 27 or more in the since March started. Would you at least consider streaming him in your standard leagues?
I mean, yeah, that's what he is for me. He's a stream guy for points and threes. That's really all he gives you.
Yeah. Would you rather stream him or Courtney Lee?
Probably him. Unless I need steals, and then I'm going for Courtney Lee.
Another guy who's going to kind of fit into the Courtney Lee mold is the guy who led the Bucks against the Timberwolves, Tony Snell. The Tony Snell. He is only owned in 4.9% of leagues. Kind of sad because in the last month per game, he is ranked 75th in averages in 9-cat leagues. A lot of that comes from the fact that he never passes the ball. So he doesn't turn the ball over. He never dribbles with the ball. He never turns the ball over at all. But he's getting over a steal a game in the last couple weeks. He gets the occasional rebounds. He's hitting a lot of threes. And he gets you a good free throw percentage. Do you like Courtney Lee, Bojan, or Tony Snell? I'd say rank them in your favorite way to stream them.
Tony Snell is a guy I want to dump a cup of water on his head because he always looks like he's half asleep. If I'm streaming them kind of in a vacuum, it's probably Snell is probably last of that group. It's probably Bojan. It's probably Courtney Lee. Then it's probably Tony Snell.
Yeah, I feel like all 3 of those guys are clustered in kind of a very similar pattern. I would probably go with Courtney Lee over Bojan and then Tony Snell last. I don't trust Tony Snell's consistency, believe it or not, but maybe I should because the guy is a good defender. He's a good role player. He'd be great in a rotation on a team that would need him. Someone who needed a team that could spread the floor out and play defense on the wing. I wonder if there's any teams like that could use Tony Snell. I just don't trust Tony Snell keeping this up, and any kind of lapse in Tony Snell's efficiencies drops his value significantly. Like Courtney Lee, playing a ton of minutes, I trust him more. Bogdan might have some bad nights where he only plays like 22 minutes and such. So I'd have to go Lee, Bogdan, and Tony Snell in that order. But they're all definitely streaming caliber when it comes to standard leagues.
Keep talking.
All right. So yeah, I think that's all the playoff guys. At least a lot of the hot hands over the last week or two. And so ride those guys through your playoffs. If you're in roto leagues, it's now definitely time to start focusing on those categories that you need to move the most in and protect yourself in ones that guys are closing in on you with. This is the best time of the year. This is the best time for roto leagues. If you're in playoff leagues, good for you. In a playoff league, that's exciting. But roto leagues, this is the best. Things can get real heated, and really, really weird guys started getting picked up around this time. Guys who get a ton of rebounds and don't do anything else. It's a very fun time for roto leagues. So
in roto leagues, I'll say this. I mean, you keep studying your standings. Study where you can make up your ground. Find players who can help you the most in those categories. Pick them up, stream them in. Especially if you got guys sitting out. There's always guys sitting out this time of year. Get guys in who are going to help you in the categories you need. Don't play Tony Snell if you need blocks. Tony Snell's not going to get you any blocks. Like, just don't lose for yourself.
Yeah, if you need rebounds and Alan Williams is sitting on your waiver wire, and you have, I don't know, anyone on your bench who's not getting rebounds, and you don't need that person, drop that person, even if they are kind of valuable. Don't drop Chris Paul. That's ridiculous. But do drop whoever's at the end of your bench for Alan Williams if you need rebounds, because he's going to give you rebounds. And rebounds are kind of a sneaky category to sneak up on people.
Drop someone who's getting 6 rebounds a game for Alan Williams 9.5. That's 3.5 rebounds a game.
And that matters. That really makes a big difference.
Well, 3.5 times, there's relatively like between 15 and 20 games left for every team, I think, right about now. So maybe not quite that many, probably closer to 15 now. There you go. I mean, 3.5 times 15 gets added up pretty quick.
Yeah, it is crunch time. And I've seen a lot of leagues go into the very last night. I've seen a league won on a missed free throw. It can get very, very close. So fight to the end. Make sure you play your max games in your roto leagues. Be sure to do everything you possibly can to win your playoff week. And if you got any questions, you want some advice about a player that's sitting on your waiver wire, hit us up on Twitter. Where can we find you on Twitter, Tyler?
You can find me at Watsy4444.
Excellent. And you can find me at Watch the Boxes on Twitter. If you like what you're hearing, leave us some feedback on Twitter or go straight to iTunes, give us a 5-star ranking, because that's always a nice thing to do to people, and leave us a review. The ratings and reviews really help other people find the podcast, or you can just tell a friend in your league after, preferably before you beat them in the playoffs. All the guys who are not in the playoffs, now is the time to tell them about this podcast.
Better yet, tell a stranger. Just go up to some guy and say, hey, you like fantasy basketball?
Yeah, and if they say no, still tell them to listen to the podcast.
There you
Maybe
go.
they'll get into fantasy basketball. You never know. You might convert somebody. Go into your football leagues and post links to this podcast. Just be like, this is better. Don't stop playing fantasy football. It's too easy. Anybody can play fantasy football. Fantasy basketball is better.
It's too lucky, man. That's the thing I hate about it. There's only 17 games. It's just too much luck involved.
There's not enough sample size. And baseball is way too you got to be really, really into baseball and really, really into statistics and spreadsheets to be good at baseball. And you got to be really lucky to win a football league. This is right in the middle where you need to know something about stats and numbers, but you also need to know something about how the league works and who's good and who's bad. And you also need a little luck. And that's why it's the perfect fantasy sport. We probably don't have to convince the people listening to a fantasy basketball podcast about that, do we?
Mike and tell him fire Fred Hoiberg. That's all I want you to say to him. Just tweet him and say fire Fred Hoiberg.
Everyone tweet at the Chicago Bulls, fire Fred Hoiberg. Fire Garpax, fire Fred Hoiberg. Burn the whole place down. Send letters to Jerry Reinsdorf in the mail. It's all his fault.
Sign him Let's Go Sox at the end so he's happy.
Ugh. God. White Sox. All right. I think that's it for tonight. Tyler, thank you for joining me.
It was my pleasure, Mike, as always.
And we will be back later this week with more fantasy basketball analysis. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.